Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, if you've just joined us right now, type in exactly where you're watching this from. We can see people typing in the chat right now. If you're on social media, type it in there. If you're on YouTube, again, type it there. And as you do, just know that we do have closed captions if you don't speak fluent English. So have a quick listen to this.
Por favor, vaya a la parte inferior de la pantalla en Zoom o YouTube y haga clic en subtítulos para leer en español.
Kérlek menjünk képernyő aljára, a Zoomon vagy a YouTube-on, a Closed Caption részre, és ott el tudod olvasni magyarul a feliratot.
Silakan klik di layar bawah pada Zoom atau YouTube dan klik caption untuk membaca dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Pour les sous-titres en français, veuillez cliquer au bas de votre écran Zoom ou YouTube sur CC ou Closed Captions.
Zoom または YouTube の画面の下部に移動し、字幕をクリックして日本語で読んでください。
请到屏幕底部點閱隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
Παρακαλώ πηγαίνετε στο κάτω μέρος της οθόνης, στο Zoom ή στο YouTube και κάντε κλικ στους υπότιτλους για να τα διαβάσετε στα ελληνικά.
请到屏幕底部点击隐藏字幕以阅读中文.
אנא עברו לתחתית המסך בזום וביוטיוב ולחצו על תרגום לכתוביות בעברית.
Proszę zejść na dół ekranu na Zoomie lub YouTubie i kliknąć napisy, żeby przeczytać.
Alrighty, beautiful. Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. This is Members Night. We run every single week. If you're a brand new member and you don't know, we do run three events every week. And this particular session, we rotate training, sometimes corporate announcements, sometimes medical calls with doctors talking about the amazing product we have in hand. And I've got to tell you, the most popular call of all is always the one we get a medical practitioner on to talk. Always. It always blows the doors of it. So we've got people online right now. I can see typing in the chat from Canada, Indonesia, USA, New Zealand, Australia, people coming in from all over the globe, which is fantastic. Now, before we kick off today, I just want to show you something. You may or may not have your app and be paying attention to the alerts that come out. But on the app, we did say yesterday, we have got so many sports testimonials coming out right now. It is just phenomenal. So I'm just going to quickly show you something, and then I'm going to ask you a favor as we kick off. So if we hop back onto Neumi New You, this is the official company's Facebook page. When you scroll down, you'll notice that there's all sorts of testimonials, some fantastic hair befores and afters. There's all sorts of testimonials in there. And if you keep going down, of course, eventually you'll get to lots of sports things. World record breaker right there, and sports testimonials coming in thick and fast. There they are. And so if you play some of the videos that have come out, we're going to have a brand new video every single week for you in 12 languages. 12 languages. Isn't that amazing? And so with that in mind, we've got so many sports testimonials coming back saying personal bests, world records, what have you, that we realized that we're out of balance a bit. And we want to make sure, because we know that, you know, our product is not just designed for athletes. Yes, you can do fantastic with it. But what about just everyday people getting amazing results? I'm sleeping better. I've got more energy, more vitality, my bouncing back to life, what have you. We need those testimonials now, please, because we want to make sure that we don't tip the boat too far in the sports angle. And if we do, it's your fault, because you didn't put your testimonial in there, right? Just joking. But it's all of our faults. We all need to make sure we write them down. So I've got a great testimonial. You've got a great testimonial. It doesn't have to be about breaking a world record, but we'd love to hear it. I will say one thing, because I'm not compliance. Don't shoot the messenger. But I have seen some of the testimonials in the last 24 hours coming in, and it makes me scratch my head with bewilderment when I do see certain things written there that we know we can't say. And I'm talking, one of them was this long with about 10 different things, medical conditions and things. And I'm like, you've never read compliance, have you? So if you haven't done it, please make sure you read the couple of pages that are in the compliance document. There is a way of saying something without saying something. And I say that just to say, you know, if we can talk about boosting energy, boosting immune system, detoxing your cells, reducing inflation, all that stuff. We don't have to say I was dead and I'm now alive thanks to Neumi, and here are my 45 different medical conditions because of it. So with that in mind, I think it's a great way to kick off today, because today's session is one of a series. And so we did one event. I was recommended to meet Dr. Johnathan Glass from Karen Justice, one of our crowns, and we did an event, and it was just rave reviews, and the amount of playbacks we got just dwarfed a lot of the other events. So then we ran a second one. So we've covered glutathione, the secret to your liver, your lungs, and today it's going to be the secret weapon for your kidneys. So with that in mind, please welcome Dr. Johnathan Glass.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. So tonight I'm going to talk about the amazing benefits of glutathione on the kidneys and a little bit about the kidneys in general, so that we have a better understanding of the kidneys, how the organs, how everything works together. So, as we know, or many of us know, that glutathione is made up of 3 amino acids, cysteine, glycine, and glutamate. And interestingly, the glutathione production, the body's always making it. I mean, we make it, and that's why this is such an amazing product, because we make it, but as we get older, we make less of it. And also, the more stress, oxidation, toxicity, things like that, aging, inflammation, any of those things will tax the body's supply of glutathione. So when we have a lot of oxidation or free radical damage, the body will try to make more glutathione, or whatever's there, it'll get used up. More inflammation. If there's immune issues, if someone gets a cold or a flu, we use up more oxidation. If we're exposed to toxins, which every single day we're exposed to hundreds, sometimes thousands of different toxins. So the body's always making glutathione and using it up. But in today's wild and crazy world, to keep the balance point so that we're actually moving in the direction of healthy detoxification, healthy energy production, healthy immune system, we want to keep things moving in the right direction rather than becoming deficient. So it's interesting that the liver is the most significant producer of glutathione. And then we have, like we talked about last week, we talked about the lungs, the lining of the lungs also are a significant place where the body creates glutathione. The third most prominent place that the body makes glutathione from is the kidneys. And, we can kind of see how the degree of the importance, it's almost like the more important the organ is. Of course, every organ is important, but without a healthy liver, we definitely can't live. Without healthy lungs, and definitely without healthy kidneys, we don't function. What do the kidneys do, basically? Just really simply, they filter blood, they remove waste from the blood, they also remove excess fluid from the body, and that's what urine is, and it keeps the right amount of fluid in the blood, and it helps keep the balance between the electrolytes and minerals in the body so that there's a balance. And the minerals are like the spark plugs of the body and the cells. And if the minerals get out of balance, we don't create energy properly. It's like the electricity. So it's a source of the electricity in the body. So the kidneys are super important for keeping the delicate balance of the electrolytes, the minerals, keeping the blood clean, keeping the right amount of fluid in the blood, and keeping the electrical charge on the red blood cells so that they don't collapse onto each other and become like a stack of pancakes. We want each red blood cell to be an independent unit so that it can carry oxygen really efficiently throughout the body. So that's really basic with the kidneys. And what do they do also? They regulate blood pressure, red blood cell production, and the acid-alkaline balance. Some of you might have heard the importance of keeping the terrain not too acidic and not too alkaline either, but we want the blood wants to be at the pH at about 7.4. So everything is a very delicate balance. And the kidneys are the most significant organ that does it. They're super, super important. Now, they make glutathione. And there's these things in the kidneys called tubules, and it's the little tubes. They're very delicate, actually, and they're very tiny. And that's where the blood goes through. So the liver basically dumps blood into the kidneys, and the kidneys then have to filter out a lot of the toxins that the liver have dumped. So guess what? What does that mean? It means that without glutathione, the tissues of the kidneys can become damaged from free radicals, from toxins, from chemicals, from heavy metals. And what the kidneys do, they do the second generation of conjugation, which means it makes a substance water soluble so that can be leave the body and not be recirculated into the bloodstream. So the kidneys are super, super important. When there's kidney damage, then those tubules get inflamed, and then people start having things like high blood pressure. Okay, so we hear about high blood pressure all the time. A lot of the reason for that can be due to inflamed or damaged kidneys. Many people just think it's the blood vessels. It's often far more sophisticated than that. If the blood vessels in the kidneys, the major filter of the body, if those are inflamed, then when the heart beats, it has to beat harder in order to push the blood through the kidneys. So we want those kidneys to be super, super healthy. One of the main things that supports the health and integrity of what's called the endothelial lining, the inner lining of the very delicate kidney tissue is, guess what? Is glutathione. So glutathione is hugely important for the kidneys. Glutathione also helps to stimulate the body's production of something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, what does that do? That dilates or that opens up the blood vessels so the blood flow can improve. As people get older, the endothelial linings of the kidneys and other blood vessels tend to get damaged due to so much oxidation, stress, chemicals, heavy metals, and toxins. Then those linings don't make a sufficient amount of nitric oxide, which relaxes and opens the blood vessels, which creates more blood flow. And again, then what happens? High blood pressure. So these things are super important. It's a very intimate relationship between the liver and the kidneys in terms of glutathione production. So we're very, very fortunate to have a product that we can take regularly every day. We don't need injections. We don't need to bring it into the body with a fatty coating on it, so that the body has to work that much harder to get it in there. So the other interesting thing with the kidneys is when the liver creates glutathione, it uses it to detox many substances. And then we have what's called oxidized glutathione. That oxidized glutathione then goes to the kidneys. And guess what the kidney does? It's amazing. It takes the different parts, the cysteine, the glycine, the glutamate that's been broken down, it reassembles it into glutathione, and it creates usable glutathione again. So the body's a machine that's constantly focusing on using glutathione and reassembling it to be created in a usable form. So it's an amazing process. So what I want to touch on now, just for a couple minutes, is how did the ancient Chinese doctors and Ayurvedic doctors, the ancient naturopaths of the world, how did they see the kidneys? So in every system of medicine, these ancient systems of medicine, they see the organ from a physical perspective, and then they look at it, how does it affect us mentally and emotionally? And I think I mentioned with the liver, it's the energy of anger or creativity. It's sort of that spectrum. The lungs, I may not mention last week, is the emotion grief. That's where people hold the emotion grief. And also the mentality of the capacity to be respectful, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But that's what the lungs do. They help us be present and respectful with people, places, situations in life. So these are emotional components. So the kidneys are very interesting because it's related to what we call the water element. And the water, it's literally is the water element. It has to do with how we flow in life. Okay. So when we're flowing well, then there tends to be less fear. So the kidneys hold fear. And you may know that there's these little glands on top of the kidneys called the adrenal glands. And what happens when we're scared? The adrenals kick out all kinds of adrenaline, noradrenaline, norepinephrine, and then cortisol, and that to balance it out. So that process can have a very damaging effect on the kidneys themselves and the blood vessels. So the emotion fear is held in the kidneys. When there's a lot of fear, we often will see some degree of kidney damage. So these days, we're exposed to so many stressors, emotional, mental, life stressors. So we can understand it from this perspective that our kidneys from that angle are being more stressed than ever. And then on top of that, of course, we have chemical toxins, heavy metal toxins, so much oxidation, wireless technology, which is also stressing the system. So the kidneys are super important. So we want to keep the kidneys healthy. When someone comes into my office and they're very anxious, they're very fearful, I always want to look at what is the state of their kidneys. So their kidneys could be impacted physically due to toxins, which could then actually create more anxiety. So it's very interesting how that happens very, very often. And it's true with the liver. Someone could be very irritable. It may not just be because they had a lousy childhood. It could be because the liver is so darn toxic. Now their liver's not able to detox. The liver gets stiff and toxic, and then they feel pent up, irritable, angry all the time. So it can happen in both angles. On the other side, if someone has had a lot of emotional trauma, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and then for the liver, a lot of anger, it's going to affect the organs. So this is this day and age that we're living in, and an age of toxicity and an age of emotional and mental stress, it's ever more important to protect the organs. And this is, you could argue, this is one reason you could say from this perspective, why when people start taking this product, after a little while, not only physically do they feel better, but mentally and emotionally. Life just starts feeling a little bit lighter, a little bit better, in some cases, a lot of it, more clear, more youthful, more hopeful, more energetic, a bit less anxious. Because when that kidney starts functioning better, you can be sure that those anxiety levels will come down, better blood flow, better nitric oxide, blood vessels open up, the heart becomes happier, the kidneys become happier, the liver becomes happier, everything like that. Another property that the kidneys, we always look at the opposite. So the emotion it holds is fear. So in what sense, what's the opposite? We say if feel the fear and do it anyway, that means you're flowing with life. Okay, I have to do something. I'm a little anxious about it, but I'm going to flow. I'm just going to go for it. That's courage. So in Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, it's described that this courage also comes from the kidneys. That's where our personal power, our capacity to be present, even in the presence of fear, even in the presence of anxiety. So it's not that we're not supposed to ever feel fear, but how can we flow with it? How can we flow with our anxiety? So anything we can do to improve the health of our kidneys, of our liver, of our lungs, of our heart, anything that we can do on a physical level, it will ripple out to impacting us mentally and emotionally. And I would be so bold to say, even spiritually, because you'll feel more energetic, more connected to yourself, to humanity, and whatever your particular path is to the divine, because you're gonna, the cells will be firing, the neurons will be firing, the blood will be flowing, and you will be able to feel more of your personal energy and the potential of who you are as a human being. Glutathione is that important. That's why it's called the master of all antioxidants, the mother of all antioxidants. It is such an amazing substance that the body makes. Without it, I've said it before, the oxygen and the red blood cells don't properly attach. It's really quite amazing. So that's a little bit on the kidneys. Yeah, they also help create hormones. We know adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol Too much cortisol, by the way, damages tissue, causes oxidation of the tissues. We need glutathione to protect us from that. So it's such a fundamental product, and we're very, very fortunate to have this particular product in this particular form. And I would say at this particular time on the planet where there's so many toxins, and in Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, again, I always like to touch on this, toxins are seen not just physical. So there's physical toxins, heavy metals, chemicals. There's mental toxins, negativity, finding fault or always criticizing yourself and others. Emotional toxins, toxins that are building up because we haven't digested or processed different emotions in life, or we haven't dealt with the anxiety and fears that we're facing in life. Okay, and then we even say spiritual toxins. So, the kidneys also have to do with willpower, the capacity to be present, even in the presence of the unknown. The Chinese have a beautiful way of describing fear. They say it's being in the presence of the unknown. And how well are we equipped to be in the presence of the unknown? When our kidneys are happier, we will be more able to connect with our willpower, our ability to be present, even if we're not sure what's going to happen next. So I'll leave it here. That's a little something on the kidneys, the power of glutathione. We're very, very fortunate to have this product. Again, I like to say this, if I was to have only one product in my practice, and I use a lot, I use Chinese herbs, I use nutrients, but if I only had one, then I would use this product for sure. Thank you.
Wow. I know why everyone loves these calls. They're absolutely fantastic. You learn so much outside of just what, the product is about, which is fantastic. And as I said, guys, at the start of this call, we're going to create this into a series. Dr. Johnathan Glass has volunteered to do a couple more events as well, and we'll have it on YouTube so that you can literally go through organ by organ, which will be a great educational piece for everybody in Neumi Worldwide. So welcome again, and thank you if you're brand new on this call the first time. Remember, please go put your testimonial in right now, because we do need as many wellness related testimonials. Even if you've done it before, please go put yours in right now with a photograph and no, I'm dead and I've suddenly come back to life. Those sorts of things. Make sure you stick to the compliance, but we would love them in the Neumi New You group as a matter of urgency, because we need them for next week. So thank you.